Showbiz Pizza Place was an entertainment center in the 80s and a pizza chain that featured pizza, video games, and an animatronic band called the Rock Afire Explosion. Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza Time Theater was a competitor in the 80s against Showbiz Pizza, but in the end, Pizza Time Theater declared bankruptcy and Showbiz bought them out. They then converted the Rock Afire Explosion into the Chuck E. Cheese characters we all know today. You would think these characters would just be forgotten, but many fans are still interested in them today. The creator, Aaron Fechter, sold off shows to places. The locations that bought these characters would have them functioning pretty well as they got them, but over time, the characters would mechanically not work well and fall into disrepair. Or sometimes, the shows would even have a worse fate. I'll be going over places that had the Rock Afire Explosion but ultimately failed in the end, or a worse fate. Snap's Blast to the Past Museum was a retro time capsule that featured many retro items for 80s movies or 90s shows, featuring the Rock Afire Explosion too. Snap's Blast to the Past Museum featured an almost perfect Rock Afire Explosion. However, in 2010, Snap was programming a show for a Halloween party. A friend of Snap came to pick him up at around 6 p.m. for dinner. However, Snap left everything on, including his Rock Afire Explosion show. Fat's keyboard lit on fire, including the curtains which spread throughout the building. When Snap returned from dinner, the whole place was a mess, to say the least, just from these pictures. Everything was just molten, just melted. Everything was just lit on fire. Snap's whole Rock Afire Explosion show looked like a mess, but mechanically the show was good, but cosmetically everything was destroyed. The whole show was sold to collectors, but Snap kept his beach bear and restored it. Showbiz Pizza Zone was a restaurant and arcade fashioned after Showbiz Pizza Place. It operated in Phoenix City, Alabama. The place opened in 2008 and was run by Chris Thrash, who also appeared in the Rock Afire Explosion documentary. The place was gonna be like a passion project for him, which he funded with his own money by working many jobs. It had arcade games and was just like the old Showbiz. The place featured a Rock Afire Explosion, which they also dressed up the show for Christmas. The show was in good condition and worked perfectly pretty much. Chris Thrash's dream became a nightmare though, as Showbiz Pizza Zone went downhill very fast. The place closed 2 years after its opening, on May 30, 2010. Chris Thrash had to sell his show back to Aaron Fechter, the creator of the Rock Afire Explosion. Aaron Fechter sold the show to Wamney Theme Park in South Korea, and it's still there today as of now. Chris Thrash had to sell his house, and his life really went downhill after that, and his whereabouts are unknown at this moment. And as for the show in Wamney Theme Park in South Korea, its condition is really bad right now. Rock Afire Bar was a bar and arcade located in Kansas City, Missouri. It opened in May of 2018. This location had a near complete Rock Afire Explosion, not including Looney Bird. The stage at the Rock Afire Bar was not the same as the Rock Afire Explosion 3 stage. It was like a CU1 stage. There were no curtains either. This show mainly used performances programmed by Chris Thrash, who owned Showbiz Pizza Zone. The show used a mixture of backdrops, including backdrops from the original show and the mini stage. And Rolf stood on his own little checkered pedestal. Unfortunately, business wasn't doing well, and they unfortunately shut down in 2019. Looney Birds was a small, short-lived restaurant chain that spun off of Showbiz Pizza Place. There were 3 locations of Looney Birds, 2 with the Rock Afire Explosion and 1 with the new Rock Afire Explosion. The chain's mascot was Looney Bird, a character in the Rock Afire Explosion. The location with the new Rock Afire Explosion opened in Orlando, Florida, and is still there today but as a graffiti shop. The other 2 locations opened in Jackson, Tennessee and Covington, Louisiana. The locations also featured a Looney Bird mascot in the form of his midget version. The Jackson, Tennessee location opened in 2001. The Jackson, Tennessee location closed in 2003 and sits abandoned with actually some remnants from Looney Birds. The shows in all locations were basically mint and perfect. The Covington, Louisiana location is now a Clearwater pool store. The rare Wizard of Oz show was actually used in the Orlando Looney Birds at one point in time. These locations did not perform well and unfortunately all closed down. Rock Afire Pizza was a restaurant in Indio, California. Originally, it had an operating Rock Afire-Explosions show. It was a pretty well-conditioned show and had a fence to block little kids around it. The exterior was also in the shape of a castle, which is pretty unique and cool. The place featured video games just like a Rock Afire Explosion and also a buffet. The show originally wasn't actually working very well and they got Aaron Fechter to restore it for them. Unfortunately, in July 31, 2008, they were no longer running the show and had replaced it with large screen TVs to show sporting events. Rock Afire Pizza shut down in 2011 and its former space was occupied by a Shakey's Pizza Parlor, but that location was shut down in 2020. Funtime Pizza Place was a family entertainment center chain founded in 1992 by a former Showbiz Pizza Place franchisee, Amy Lazarus. The place featured a mini-stage Rock Afire Explosion, including Looney Bird, Fats, Mitzi, and Billy Bob. The location with the mini-stage was McAllen, Texas, but I'm pretty sure there was another location with a full-stage Rock Afire Explosion. The McAllen, Texas location, interestingly enough, had a King animatronic from Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza Time Theater. The McAllen, Texas location also had some bootleg costumes, which are pretty unsettling to say the least, of some Sesame Street characters and Pink Panther. The McAllen, Texas location also featured a Billy Bob walk-around, which could move its mouth, which is pretty weird. The place also featured a bouncy castle and video games, but now Funtime Pizza is now abandoned, at least in McAllen, Texas. The chain sold most of its locations in the mid-2000s to Chuck E. Cheese's due to financial difficulties. Today, only 4 Funtime Pizza places remain. It's clear opening a Showbiz Pizza place is a pretty bad idea if you want to make it out alive. Billy Bob's Wonderland is really the only location that has stood the test of time. Volo's Auto Museum is a newly opened Rock Afire Explosion show you can visit too. If you enjoyed this video, send me money, please. If you like this video, hit the subscribe button, please, and the like button. And comment your favorite location or comment any video ideas and maybe I'll do it. Well, that's all for this video and good day, Matt.